right, good morning. Today is day one of welding day. So we're going to get the floor pan welded in today. My buddy Bobby couldn't make it. He had a work commitment, so obviously that has to come first. So we're going to, first thing I'm going to do is adjust the roll center. Since I put the body on this, I'm pretty much guessing my roll center is way off. So I'm going to go up at least a couple holes, maybe 3, probably 2 to start with. To do that, it's actually super handy with the lift. I'm going to put the lift underneath the frame jig, take the pressure off those screws, lower them down, pick up a couple holes, reattach it, test it, see how it rolls at that point. But hopefully it'll work out well. So yeah, that's my plan. I'm going to, and what I'll do is, this thing is super rigid right now, but I'm going to double check straightness on everything, check the straightness of my backbone, roll it on its side, make sure that backbone does not flex at all. If it flexes, then I've got to do it vertical, but if it doesn't flex, then I'm okay. That's kind of what I've come up with. So that's my plan. I will get that adjusted, get that down, get the porta power out of there, or at least the pump, and start from that. See what we get. I do love a rotisserie. So I checked it for flex. I didn't get any flex side to side when it was at 90 degrees. So I'm pretty confident we're in good shape. But look how nice it's going to be to get in there and plug weld that side, right? So my plan is I'm going to plug weld probably 1 foot to 2. And I got to start from the front because it's so constrained against the firewall here. The only opportunity I have to expand is backwards. So I'm going to start at the front. I'll probably do 2 feet of plug weld here, flip it, do 2 feet there, maybe go 1 foot beyond and come back down here, do 2 feet, go up there, do 2 feet, and eventually just get it wrapped up. This side fits pretty tight. It's very good, actually. That side up there is where most of the slack is. So as I figure if I get the start on this side down here, get it worked in, flip it, work that side, that will pretty much take care of me, I think. So then I get back to the end of the rockers and stop, at which point I'll move up front and start working on the firewall. That's my plan right now. So gonna have at it. Gonna be a lot of welding. Sure gonna be a fair amount of grinding. So I'll do what I can. And if I don't get it all done, like I said, Bobby said he'd be able to come down next weekend. So if I get to a point where I'm hating life or just not liking the results, I got backup. But yeah, it was a good look at the new floor pan from the bottom. Pretty cool. Back up here a little bit so you get the full grandeur of this setup. Randy, this rotisserie is awesome. Thank you for letting me borrow it. Yeah, if I do any more of these, I will have to own one of those for sure. But anyway, good setup. I feel confident, nothing's flexing, nothing's moving. I got enough vertical web now with just the body that it'd be damn near impossible for anything to move at this point. But you got to check it. You got to keep checking every time. Flat edge, the backbone, make sure you don't get any sag in it. That's all I can do, right? So yeah, I'm gonna have at it. Another thing I wanted to mention real quick. I have a come on, focus. There we go. I have an 1/8" bit, centering bit that I use to pre-drill some stuff from time to time. Of course, I broke it. But what I did was I ground it flat, very flat. And I'm going to use that to go in and just take it, put it down in a spot weld, like so. And it scrapes off the weld through primer a little bit right there. I every once in a while I One of those, what I call impurity volcanoes, where when you're doing a plug weld, it starts to, like a little bubble oozes up through it. And that comes from impurities, so, it could be paint, could be rust, could be anything. But I find that if I scrape the back of the hole a little bit, similar to like what John does on Vinyl Village Garage, but he uses a drill bit that's, a regular drill bit. I'm using a flat bit, almost like an end mill, just to scuff the paint up, get me a good ground. I think that's gonna help. So I'm gonna do that to all my holes as I go, just to, give it a good clean surface, give the weld the best chance it can, and hopefully help to minimize grinding a little bit. That's my goal anyway. So we'll see how it works out. I thought it was gonna be. So basically got it all plug welded down through, ground off, ready for epoxy. Once I get the other side, I still got to grind the other side, the passenger side. Once that's ground, I took the support bar off just so I could get to the bottom of that rocker, sanded that. So once I get both of these sides done, and I can pretty much be guaranteed to get through a bottle of rattle can epoxy, I will put this back up, hit each side with epoxy, probably right before or maybe shortly after. Maybe I'll do the welding on the firewall first so that I can move to an entire can of epoxy in one shot rather than rolling the dice and letting it sit around for a few hours while I finish the other part. But this went pretty good. It took me about an hour and a half to weld both sides all the way down through. Having it right here handy where you can sit and have it level was a big plus. Made it much easier to do nice plug welds. Nothing was trying to drip. So these of course will be vertical, but hey, we'll just deal with it. So yeah, that's my next adventure. As soon as I get the other side, the other rocker ground ready for epoxy, I'll level this back up, put this down so that I can get it all leveled back up and even, so that I can start the spot welds up through here on the rocker pan. Firewall. So yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with that so far. Didn't take nearly as long as I thought it was going to, so happy about that. I will bring you back when I'm ready to start the other part. One thing I did want to mention, the flange is pretty uneven from side to side. One side was considerably longer than the other. So I did go through and grind it off even with the bottom of the rockers so that it didn't have a thin piece of sheet metal hanging down up front. It was almost 1/4 of an inch up front, and then it went away as it went towards the back. But the flange was very inconsistent on this floor pan, which I don't think is unusual. But I did grind it off so it's nice and flat, so now I can use my pinch blocks to lift the car off the jig from this point forward. So should be a little easier. And I did do Juby's Caterpillar welds around the torque boxes just to, I'm not actually going to be using these torque boxes, but you never know. Someday somebody in the future might want to convert this back to a stock setup. I don't know why, but you never know. So I did do that. Yeah, pretty much ready to flip it and get going again. Okay, look at that. Like a machine did it. So plug welds went pretty good. Then I put a number of plug welds down through here. And then the foot one down there. Now, on some of these, I didn't have holes pre-punched or busted the original welds out. So I used the method that John from Vinyl Village Garage and Lewis from First Generation Garage use, where they just drill in with like a 3/8 or a 5/16 drill bit until you're into the second panel and then stop. Then when you're welding it up, you have a nice cone in the second panel to penetrate into. It works really slick, really slick. So if I hadn't pre-punched everything and you're working in a situation where you've got to drill holes to do your plug welds, then that is definitely the way of choice. The other thing I picked up on somebody's channel, you can see each one of these, there's a little dimple in it. And the idea behind that is you just do your plug welds, sand them, but instead of making them completely disappear, you run a little deburr ball bit on each one. Just put a little dimple in the center. The idea is that if you ever had to separate that and you made them all disappear, you'd play hell finding every spot weld in there. So just and it looks better. Looks like it's actually, you can see where each spot is attached. So I can't remember who put that out there. It was one of the channels I watch regularly, and I'm like, wow, that's a really good idea. So yeah, it's just a little ball valve divot on each plug weld, just to give it, some visibility once it's all sealed up and the seam seal's on and everything else. Of course, you'd peel the seam sealer off anyway, but you'd be able to at least see where the plug welds are. So if you ever had to detach that panel, you'd have half a chance. Only half, but at least half. So yeah, I'm gonna clean up these plug welds here on the sides a little bit. Those are some fairly large holes, so I'm gonna just get down in there, wire brush that, and then I'm going to take and hit all of this fresh metal that I've got exposed here with epoxy, the rattle can epoxy, and just kind of black that out a little bit so I'm not worried about that rusting. And then again, I'm gonna get this thing back up in the air, roll it so that I can hit those bottom of the rockers as well. Then the next step, I can put on these outer cowls that everything's ready to go there. I can put these on. Got to seal up, do some seam seal work inside first, so I might wait until I have a bunch of seam seal work I can do all at once. And then I'm going to hit that. Then it's getting ready to start fitting up the quarter panels, which is back there in those giant boxes. Hopefully they go nicely. They never do. They won't. I know, but it's worth a shot. So yeah, feeling pretty good. Took me pretty much the whole day, welding, grinding, dressing, but it feels really good to have that part done. So now I'm back to working in the rear, getting the quarters on, getting the quarters, the filler, the trunk deck, the rear panel, everything fitted up. I do not have my door hinges back yet. I sent those out to be rebuilt, and I'll do a little review on that process when they come back. It cost very similar money to have them rebuilt, and this outfit that I used got really a lot of praise on YouTube University. If the holes are worn out, they'll weld it, drill it. They have a machine shop, so they weld it in, drill it back out, bore it, and put the proper bushings in. But the idea is when you get it back, you have a factory hinge again that's rebuilt to factory spec. Some of the OEM reproduction hinges, I've heard some nightmares. So if you can reuse your door hinges, please do. Oh, I'm also having them do the hood hinges as well, because that's really what they're known for, is their hood hinge work. So I'm having them do all the door hinges and the hood hinges. They'll come back in primer, and I can then put them in when get the doors lined up. I did finish that second door. I know I didn't put any video out on that, but the second door was pretty much the same as the first. There was no big surprises, fewer dents, but it's going to need body work, but there's a lot there to start with. So anyway, feeling all right about this right now. Like I said, I'm going to clean up some of those welds tomorrow, and then epoxy it, get it all sealed back up, then I'm probably on to start at least preliminary fitting of the rear quarter panels, tail panel, trunk deck, and all of the whole rear clip pretty much. Can't really finish any of that until the doors are here, but until the door hinges are back. But they'll probably be another couple weeks, but I'm sure I'll have plenty more I can work on until then. Yeah. Okay, so before I hit all this with epoxy, I dressed up the side welds a little bit. I got to put these braces in. So that's the seat pan brace for the front and the rear. There's also this little flange right here that's got to be pounded over and welded. So I put a layer of seam sealer in here just to get it sealed up under these brackets where they got to go. So just an initial layer in there for that stuff. I might clean it up a little more later, but so the next step, I guess, is take these seat pans, start working those in after I bend those tabs over and weld them. But then I'll flip it again, do the painting and the epoxy on the bottom, because there'll probably be some stuff up here I got to seal too. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so I hit the firewall with some epoxy. Got that squared away. Dealt with all the side braces. Also put in the seat bracket and rear body brace, convertible brace. AMD does not install that. When you buy a floor from them, it comes separate, so you have to put that in. Kind of a pain, but it is what it is. So, and I did them on both sides, as you can see over there. And I went underneath and just hit some primer. Got everything as good as I could get it right now. As good as I need to get it right now. Just trying to keep everything sealed up and keep it from flash rusting on me. So I've got one more convertible brace to put in the front, right up in here. I gotta find them. They're around here somewhere. They go right up underneath this corner, and I'll document that when I do it. But I think this is about it for this weekend. I'm kind of beat right now. So, yeah, that's about it. And hit me up if you got any questions or anything that, have you seen anything I missed? Please. And that'll be about it.